Today we come together to honor something we all need: fair housing, good health, and a community that cares. And this is what it's all about. Like Mr. Roger taught us, neighbors are people who care about one another, and that's what this event is all about. I can't believe it's already been a year since our first fair housing event at Cleveland City Hall. And I remember the words of our Assistant Director, Anthony Scott. I'm putting him on the spot. He said and encouraged me to take the event, and the Director of Community Development, Elisa Hernandez, to take this event out to our neighborhood. And this is what we're doing today. We are in the heart of the Clark and Fulton neighborhood. Thank you, Metro Health, and all the community partners that you see on our screen, that you see outside the halls, supporting us. To my co-workers, to our bureau, to our department, to the city, to you, the residents of the city of Cleveland, for being here today. I'm going to translate a very small piece of this message to Spanish to make sure that the residents that don't speak Spanish have an opportunity to know what's going on around them today. Es un hermoso día en el vecindario, un vecindario donde todos somos bienvenidos. Tú eres especial tal y como eres. Hoy contamos con las diferentes organizaciones en Cleveland donde ustedes se pueden educar sobre los recursos y sobre las cosas que tenemos en la ciudad, a donde muchas veces no nos dejan, no tenemos la oportunidad de saber todos los beneficios que tenemos como inquilinos, como dueños de casa. So, quiero que tomen esa oportunidad para que visiten nuestras mesas, estén seguros de que sepan los recursos que tiene la ciudad de Cleveland. Y ahora le quiero introducir a nuestra maestra de ceremonia. And now I will begin by introducing my co-worker, my friend, a community champion, Lana Ballier.
I want to thank Dulce for once again putting together this event. She did an amazing job, just like she did last year. I want to thank her for the inspiring words and for her leadership throughout this process. I am extremely thankful. I am honored to guide you through this celebration this year. Today we're going to reflect on the vital connection between housing and health, and the difference fair housing makes in our lives. So I want to begin by welcoming our leader, the Director of Community Development, Alyssa Hernandez.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us as we close out National Fair Housing Month. Each year, this month reminds us that access to safe, stable, and affordable housing is a right and not a privilege. In a city like Cleveland, where most residents rent their homes, fair housing protections are especially critical.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, can I just make a quick announcement? If anyone is parked in this parking lot behind this building, which is the apartments parking lot, they are currently towing cars. If you are parked back there, I just wanted to let you guys know. You're welcome.
My car would be back there. So we'll make this brief. All right. Each year, this month reminds us that access to safe, stable, and affordable housing is a right and not a privilege. In a city like Cleveland, where most residents rent their homes, fair housing protections are especially critical. Renters often face the greatest risks: discrimination, displacement, and inequity. That's why this work matters so much. We believe every Clevelander deserves the dignity of a home free of discrimination, safe from harm, and rooted in community. And that belief isn't just a slogan. It's the foundation of what we do every day in the Department of Community Development. Today, I want to recognize someone whose work embodies that mission. Dulce, who you've heard of earlier, is our Fair Housing Coordinator. Dulce, your tireless commitment to equity is felt across this entire city. Your expertise your persistence, your passion, they change lives. We are so proud to have you on our team, and Cleveland is lucky to have such a powerful champion for fair housing. To our community development staff, all around us, buzzing, some are in this room and some are in the room next door, thank you for supporting Dulce and the department and for making this month's events a success. And to all of our partners who have tables here and resources, we thank you for your commitment to advancing fair housing in Cleveland. You are the thought leaders and advocates who bring this work to life in our neighborhoods. And finally, we are thankful to Metro Health Hospital and the Viasana Center for graciously hosting us today in this wonderful space. Reminder, get your cars if they are not where they are supposed to be, because they will tow you. Last year, we celebrated in City Hall's Rotunda, and this year we brought it out to the community, and that feels exactly right. Because fair housing doesn't just live in City Hall, it lives in our neighborhoods, in our homes, and in our shared belief in justice and opportunity. As we close this month, let's carry that belief forward and keep working towards a Cleveland where everyone has a fair place to call home. Thank you all again.
You better.
I want to make sure you can hear me. The next person I am going to introduce is the Bureau Chief of Community Program within the city, Erin Miller-Tate.
Thanks, Lana, and thank you, Director Hernandez. I hope your car is still there when you go out to get it. Thank you also to Metro Health, our sponsors, for hosting us today, our other event sponsors whose information and products you will find throughout this event, and for everyone here as we share information and services in this important work. Our Bureau, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our Bureau. We serve to connect residents and community organizations to the Department of Community Development and to City Hall. We really focus on building awareness around resources and helping residents to access those resources while serving as advocates for resident needs. In addition to fair housing, we promote home repair programs, banking access, and consumer protection through education and engagement. Housing is central to the well-being of Cleveland residents and central to the work of our Bureau. And I would like to acknowledge Director Hernandez, wherever she may be, and her vision to really create pathways to resources that are more than just a form to fill out. Our Bureau is a helping hand and a listening ear for residents who need support. I'd also like to thank the members of our Fair Housing Board, some of whom are with us today, for their support of Dulce and myself as we continue our efforts to prioritize this work within the city and to improve the city's ability to respond to housing discrimination. As we know, our current climate is not exactly friendly to this kind of work, and that makes the strengthening of our work that much more important. I want to conclude today by also acknowledging Dulce and all of her work, not only on this event, but the work she does every day to seek opportunities to educate and to share resources and to make every resident feel seen and heard in their struggle for safe and affordable housing. Thank you all for being here today and helping us to celebrate Fair Housing Month. I'm going to give it back now to Lana.
Thank you, Erin. I'm going to put this mic right here. Hi. Next, I'm going to be welcoming to the stage Greg Zuka. He is the Executive Director of Community Transformation and Real Estate at Metro Health. And conveniently, exactly where we are. So, big round of applause.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Again, on behalf of Metro Health, I just want to welcome you all here for coming today to this wonderful event. The work that the city is doing to ensure that we have fair housing in our neighborhoods and our communities is so critically important. And it's really an honor for Metro Health to welcome you all and have you all here. As you know, Metro Health, health and housing is so critically connected. Healthcare doesn't just occur in the four walls of the doctor's office or in the hospital. And so it's really important that we play a role in housing, because because that is one of the areas that most directly impacts people's overall health and well-being. And so that's why we partnered with others, with the City of Cleveland, with the Councilwoman Jasmine Santana, with Metro West Community Development Organization, the NRP group, to develop this project here, Viasana, which means Healthy Way. It's an affordable housing project that brought 72 units, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units here to the Clark Fulton community that was identified as an area that needed, a critical area that needed affordable housing in our neighborhoods. And so we were very happy to partner with all of those to bring this project here and to create this center, this economic opportunity center, where we can have and host events like this and bring resources to our patients, our employees, and our community. So thank you so much for coming. We're really proud to be here and look forward to a wonderful afternoon.
Okay, I wanted to draw your attention to this screen. We're going to play a short video. It is the Fair Housing Act video presentation. So we're going to pause. We're going to take a second to reflect. And then this short video revisits the legacy of the Fair Housing Act and reminds us how far we have come and the work that is ahead.
championship of the famous Judge Smith, right-wing segregationist from Virginia. He wouldn't hold hearings on it. He would take the bill so nobody could act on it. And we were running out of time.
Thousands flowed from the rainy streets of Memphis this day, finishing a march that Dr. King planned to lead in support of striking carpet workers.
How many millions died? Before we can really have a free and true and peaceful society. And I know you're rich out there. Take mine. You take our pain.
The death of Martin Luther King was a tragic thing, but no legislation should be passed as a memorial to anyone. In spite of the fact, I'm going to support this legislation. This law protects the rights of the next. The law that we passed every year. It's there really longer. I have a dream that one day
So as we watch that video, yes, it's a very powerful video. And I think it's very important to note that it has been 57 years since Martin Luther King died, and we are still fighting the same battle. So as I kind of bring that to the forefront of your mind, I want to welcome our next guest speaker. She is a champion of equity and housing rights. Please welcome Tanisha Seaborn, Director of Education and Outreach for the Fair Housing Research Center.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. That was such a powerful video. I've seen it a lot of times now, but the first few times I saw it, it brought me to tears. I want to thank the City of Cleveland for hosting this wonderful event to close out Fair Housing Month, and for Metro for allowing us this space and opportunity. Again, my name is Tanisha Seaborn, and I am the Director of Education and Outreach at the Fair Housing Center for Rights and Research. And so we are located in Cleveland and serve all of Cuyahoga and Lorain County in helping to protect and expand fair housing rights, eliminate housing discrimination, and promote integrated communities. So as it was stated, it has been 57 years since the Fair Housing Act was passed on April 11th, 1968, and signed here. Here is a picture, this still, of President Lyndon B. Johnson signing the act. And in the video, you could hear President Lyndon B. Johnson say, "The dream of Martin Luther King has not died with him," right? So even though Dr. Martin Luther King spent his whole life really advocating and fighting for the rights, that dream did not die with him. And we carry it on even today. And in the video, we also heard civil rights advocate Dorothy Heights say that the fight goes on because while we have changed, we still have the same kind of discrimination occurring, right? So even today, 57 years from the legislation being passed, we still experience housing discrimination in our communities. When the Fair Housing Act was passed, we had 4 original protected classes. We had race, color, national origin, and religion. In 1974, sex was added as a protected class. And then the Fair Housing Act was amended in 1988 to include familial status and disability. And in a time right now, in this current climate, when these protections are being threatened, we are very grateful for Cuyahoga County and for the City of Cleveland to have even additional protected classes than what's required of federal and state laws. In our state laws, we have ancestry and military status also included as a protected class. And in Cuyahoga County, we have sexual orientation and gender identity included as a protected class. So any municipality within Cuyahoga County has to recognize that as a part of a protected class. Then additionally, the City of Cleveland goes even beyond that and includes some additional protections. For example, age is a protected class in the City of Cleveland. So while we have made significant progress, it's still very important to have organizations like the Fair Housing Center working side by side with the City of Cleveland and the Fair Housing Coordinator, Dulce, who, again, it's already been stated, but Dulce does an amazing job in this role in providing fair housing information to the community. So I won't go into detail all of the different provisions within the Fair Housing Act, but did just want you all to just briefly note that no matter where someone lives and all sorts of different covered transactions, so it's not just for renters, right? While we know that the majority of Cleveland residents are renting their home and have these protections in place, it is also for if people are trying to buy their home or sell their home or obtain homeowners insurance, right? Not being able to deny or discriminate against someone based on their protected classes. And so as we come together today to talk about the intersection between housing and health, let's first kind of talk about why is fair housing important? And I can say that personally, and that within myself and then the folks that work at the Fair Housing Center, we fundamentally believe that housing is a human right, right? It's not just a law. Housing is a human right. When we think about our hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, and water are at the very top, right? We all deserve safe, decent, and affordable housing. But housing is much more than shelter and where we lay our head. Where we live determines our access to schools, right? Where our children go to school is largely played by where we live. Our access to healthy foods, whether we live in neighborhoods that have plenty of grocery stores or if we live in neighborhoods that have food deserts. Access to jobs and proximity to transportation, all is largely determined by where we live. Access to health care, being able to be right next to Metro Health or in a community that does not have urgent cares or emergency rooms available. But research has heavily shown that where you live also impacts your life outcomes. Where you live can impact your opportunities for upward mobility and then even your exposure to environmental health hazards, such as air pollutants and lead exposure. So long ago, before the Fair Housing Act was passed, we had several different ways in which our federal government perpetuated racial segregation and discriminatory practices. So what you see here on the right is a map of the city of Cleveland, and it's a redlining map. The city of Cleveland was one of 14 cities all throughout the state of Ohio that experienced redlining. And again, this was done by our federal government. In the redlining map, what you'll find here is that neighborhoods were color-coded based off of race and ethnicity. And the areas that were considered to be red and yellow were considered to be hazardous and declining. And the areas that were considered to be blue and green were considered to be best and still desirable. And again, these maps were largely created based on race and ethnicity. So as you can imagine, communities where Black and brown individuals lived were considered to be hazardous and definitely declining. And if we look here at a current map of Cuyahoga County, you'll see that the darkest green area is where there is a high percentage of African Americans living. And I'd like to highlight one thing here. So in this first map, you'll see somewhat of a C shape, right? Us housing advocates in Cleveland, we call this the Cleveland C, right? So if you don't quite see it, I'll point it out for you. Right here, you'll see this C shape. And then when you look at the map of Cuyahoga County, you still see that C shape. So unfortunately, because of practices like redlining and racially restrictive covenants, we are just about no more integrated now today than we were 70, 80 years ago. And why does this matter and why is this connected to health? It's because, again, housing and health are inextricably linked. Melody Goodman, who is an assistant professor at Washington University, has been quoted as saying that your zip code is a better predictor of your health than your genetic code. So meaning that your zip code, where you reside, is a better indicator of your health than your actual DNA makeup. That is a profound statement. And so I'd like to show you another map. And so can we see here, again, our C shape, right? In this darkest blue area, this is unfortunately showing us life expectancy. And so formerly redlined neighborhoods, historically redlined neighborhoods, have a much lower life expectancy than neighborhoods that were not redlined. So that's why fair housing is critical. People should have the right to choose the housing of their choice, free from unlawful discrimination. That's why organizations like the Fair Housing Center and the City of Cleveland's Fair Housing Review Board are critical. And we are so grateful for the City of Cleveland for all of the work that they are doing to combat the disinvestment that has occurred in historically redlined neighborhoods throughout the decades. So as I get ready to conclude, what I really want to stress is that if you are a healthcare advocate, you are a housing advocate, right? Because again, they are so inextricably linked. When a family's housing situation is unaffordable and insecure, chances to lead a healthy life dwindle rapidly. Safe, stable, and affordable housing prevents long-term health problems and promotes healthy and productive lives. So remember, you can always utilize fair housing as a tool if someone is being discriminated against because of any of their protected classes. They can reach out to get some assistance because, again, where you live matters, and people should have the right to choose the housing of their choice. Okay. And with that, I thank you for having me this afternoon, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the program today.
Let me turn on my mic myself so you can actually hear me. So the next guest speaker, I want to kind of join up here. We're now welcoming a health leader dedicated to community well-being. Please welcome me in joining Eddie Gisemba. Gisemba. Let's look this, sorry.
Thank you. Can you hear me? All right, you pronounce that name better than my football coaches, so I'll take the win. All right, hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Eddie Gisemba. I work at Metro Health as a project lead within the Population Health Research Institute. And I want to talk to you about a project that Metro Health was awarded that you all may be interested in participating in. Metro Health was approved for a grant from the EPA to essentially work on a project that actually works at the intersection of both housing and health. Essentially, we're working to improve indoor air quality by swapping out gas stoves for electric stoves, but I'll get into the details in a second. All right, so first off, why are we doing this? We're doing this to help improve asthma management among residents. For those that don't know what asthma is, it's a chronic condition that causes inflammation and the narrowing of airways that make it so difficult for individuals to breathe. Symptomatically, it's ultimately going to cause wheezing, coughing, shortness of breath, and chest tightening. And unfortunately, Cleveland residents are disproportionately impacted by asthma, where the national average of asthma prevalence is about 9%. We're sitting at about 20%. So about 1 in 5 residents in the city of Cleveland have asthma. You could advance the slide. So there's no direct cause, but we know there's a strong family history towards asthma. So if you have a parent that has asthma, you're more likely to have one yourself. Your children are more likely to have it as well. And essentially, allergens will trigger a reaction that will narrow the airways. But the allergens are varied, so it's going to vary from person to person. Some examples are pollen, dust mites, cats, dogs, cockroaches, mold, etc. can trigger the asthma attacks, as well as various other environmental exposures, so air pollution, smoking, etc. And it's exacerbated by a plethora of upper respiratory infections, such as the common cold and flu. So unfortunately, as a chronic condition, there's no cure for it. There are medications that can be taken to reduce the inflammation in open airways, particularly bronchodilators will do that, and as well as identifying and avoiding triggers for the asthma attacks. Immunization towards all upper respiratory infections is recommended, and to essentially monitor lung function over time. So, what does any of this have to do with gas stoves? All right, so gas stoves are a major source of indoor air pollution through releasing both nitrous oxide and particulate matter, which are known to exacerbate asthma symptoms. In addition to that, greenhouse gases are emitted, such as carbon dioxide and methane, that generally speaking just aren't good for the environment. So gas stoves, not necessarily good for the environment, but people that have asthma are especially prone to these negative effects. Next slide. So, asthma management, we know, can be improved by reducing indoor air pollution. So we're collaborating with the EPA in order to replace gas stoves with induction stoves, so essentially electric stoves. And eligible participants can have their gas stoves replaced with an induction stove at no cost to them. So it's definitely something that we're contributing to financially, and some of you may be interested or know somebody that is. So in order to accomplish this, we're working with a number of community-based organizations within Northeast Ohio, not just limited to Cleveland, but extended down to Akron and Canton as well. These are the community health organizations that we're working with. And we're identifying interested participants within the following locations. So Cleveland, East Cleveland, Euclid, et cetera. So are you or someone that's someone you know eligible? The criteria of eligibility really isn't very substantial. First, do you or anyone else in your household have asthma, ranging from mild to severe? It's important to note here that we're not going to require a doctor's note or anything indicating that you have asthma. Self-report is adequate. Do you have a gas stove at home that you're using for cooking? Do you reside in a target area? That's something we can figure out by just knowing your address. But on the earlier slides, I mentioned the neighborhoods that are participating in the project. And the program is available whether you rent or own the place that you live. So it was mentioned earlier that a lot of Cleveland residents are renters. In those situations, we just need to get approval or consent from your landlord in order to swap out the gas stove for the electric stove. So what's next? Well, first step is the participant screening. That's essentially accomplished by just reaching out to either us or one of the seed community-based organizations, just indicating that you're interested. And then we can complete the questionnaire in order to determine whether or not you're a good participant for the program. You'd be assigned to a community-based organization for a home visit and scope of work. So the home visit, we're essentially going to look at the old gas stove, see what sort of modifications to the kitchen need to be made in order to accommodate an electric or an induction stove, and then we would go in and do the work. And then the stove would also at that point be scheduled for installation. The gas stove would then be removed and then recycled in order to reuse the materials. Next slide. All right, so the project does have an evaluation component. We want to be able to measure what the air quality is like before the new stove is installed, as well as after the new stove is installed. So we want to both measure air quality as well as complete a baseline and post-intervention assessment to determine what's the air quality prior to the swap, what is it after we make the switch to an induction stove, and how does that improve the participants' ability to manage their asthma. So it would be done prior to the new stove being placed into the unit, after it's placed into the unit, and then there'll be a follow-up 12 months later in order to see how things are going over time. So the asthma questionnaire is really just self-report. We have a number of questions. How often do you wheeze? How often do you need to use your inhaler? Things to that respect. And then for the indoor air quality, we're measuring two things in particular: nitrous oxide as well as particulate matter. All right, so there's a couple of other project quote-unquote bonuses attached to this. One of which is, since we're already going to be putting in an electric stove, there's the option that if you either have an electric vehicle or you plan to get one in the future, we can install a 240-volt outlet in your garage for the electric vehicle. Once again, this is at no charge to you. Repairing or installing the ventilation hood for the stove so that all the particulate matter that's coming from the stove could essentially be pushed out of the house. And there's the ability to address both indoor and outdoor air quality. So indoor air quality through the stove, but there's also an incentive program where if you're interested in switching to an electric supplier that's purely from renewable energy, there's a $250 incentive for doing so. So on top of the stove, there are various other things that you may be interested in. And that's all I have for now. We have a table in the kitchen if you're interested in learning more information about the program. So thank you all for coming, and have a good day. Hope to see you later.
Want to get our placeholder back up there. So the next speaker is going to be a resident testimonial. So I'm going to actually direct your attention over here, as long as I grab the mic as well.
And I am here for moral support.
So here we want to show just an actual Clevelander that was impacted by a fair housing incident and how Dulce was able to kind of just come in there and aid where she can. And we are really thankful for Deidre to step up and provide her testimonial today.
My name is Deirdre Maston, and I'm very familiar with a lot of you from the different agencies. Hello? I'm very familiar with a lot of you from the different agencies. Can you hear me?
Sorry, it was my fault. I was there for moral support. I am so sorry.
Is this better? Can you hear me? Okay, again, my name is Deirdre Maston, and I'm very familiar with a lot of you from the different agencies. And I became familiar with you all through a fair housing case that I had in 2014, Deirdre Maston versus K&D Group. That case was very important. It was very important for several reasons. Fair housing has an issue. And the only way that those issues can be resolved is if we have people in place that are willing to assist rather than transfer the help to someone else or run away from helping a person who's not able to articulate in a way that they would like in order to express what is happening to them. The case that I had in 2013 was very hard for me, and it weighed heavy on my health. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience because I had never experienced anything like it. Fast forward 10 years later, after carefully observing the management, property managers, and everything that goes along with housing and alleged fair housing, where I currently reside, I started noticing a trend. They're not hiring property managers with the education of fair housing, landlord-tenant law, or anything above, so it makes it quite hard to help those in need because you really don't know what's actually happening. Let me give you an experience of mine. Our property manager decided he was going to use a tactic to say that some of the tenants were not paying their rent and they hadn't paid their rent for some time. I'm not talking about 2 or 3 months, I'm talking about a few years. It bothered me for several reasons. Number one, they are actual creditors. And you know, if you have a credit card delay or anything, you can ask questions, or if you're overcharged, you can ask questions. Well, when it came to management, they decided that they were just going to tell you how much you were delinquent without giving you the actual date, time, the amount, the correct month or anything. You're just supposed to rely on what they're saying. It hit me so hard that I started suffering from severe anxiety because I had several questions and they were ignoring me. One of the questions was, well, if I owe you any rent, which I doubt very highly because for the past 10 years, not only have I paid my rent on time or a week in advance, I also decided after my first experience with fair housing issues to start taking pictures of every receipt that I gave that company. So I already knew I had the evidence. I asked several questions. Can you please tell me when this occurred, what month it was, the year you're talking about? And number two, why didn't I get a notice of some sort in the mail referencing me being late on rent or not even paying?
Well, the management company didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to respond to me. And I became familiar with all the agencies, as previously stated, because of the case that I had in 2013. I just so happened to come across Mrs. Sanchez. Had it not been for Mrs. Sanchez asking the same questions that I asked, even without her knowing that for over 10 years, I kept a record of every single receipt to pay my rent, I was truly shocked, because most times now, people will tell you when you call the agencies, oh, well, we're only trying to help people that are being evicted, or you have to let us know when you get an eviction notice. That's too late. It's way too late. I'm not gonna sit and wait for an eviction notice. That means that I'm halfway out. And it gives them enough time, the management company, to prepare. So I had to be prepared. When Mrs. Sanchez took the case through the Cleveland's Fair Housing Department, she wasn't biased at all. She was very unbiased. She treated both sides with respect. She also saw the issue right away. I'd explained it to her. But it took someone with a kind heart to help me. Someone that could listen, someone that would understand, someone that would investigate, someone that could challenge what the management company was saying. And that was Mrs. Sanchez. Everyone else was too busy. And I understand with everything that went on with COVID that there was a lot of fair housing issues, evictions and everything, and I understood that. And she helped me. It was just that single question that she asked the management company that caused them to respond. Without that department, right now I'll be waiting to go to court, because I'm a fighter. I'm going to fight, especially when I have all the receipts. So after the incident with the management company, I had expressed to the general manager of the property that this is a trend with your property manager. Not only is he doing this to people that he knows good and well would not have receipts from 2 or 3 years ago. He obviously didn't choose me successfully. However, but there are older people. There are older people living there. They may not keep their receipts. How this affects them is that they would have to go through that process, which highly correlates with health issues. I can imagine, I hope you can imagine me being short of breath, feeling like I was having an out-of-body experience, not just because I was angry, but because of the audacity of the management company to express or allege that I had been late on my rent when just a week before they congratulated me on keeping meticulous records. Now, if I'm keeping meticulous records, why wouldn't I keep my rent receipts? But without the help of the city of Cleveland, there's no telling where we'd be at right now, but I'm sure it would be at the housing court. And I'd like to say that the agencies are greatly needed. Even the advocacy that I do for the other elders in my building, we rely heavily on the research and advocacy. And tell Mary, thank you. And we rely on the city of Cleveland's Fair Housing Department, because without it, fair housing just isn't fair housing anymore. And it won't be. And it's not just up to you all to help people in situations like me. People like me have to take responsibility as well. We can't just sit there and wait for someone to rescue us. That's not what fair housing is about. If you love what you do and you do what you love, it doesn't take but a minute to express to a person what their options are, what their rights are, and how they can be helped. And if you can't, just send them to somewhere where they can be helped. So my appreciation, my heartfelt appreciation goes out to the Fair Housing Advocacy and Research, and most definitely the City of Cleveland's Department of Fair Housing, because we need it. And this is a very critical time. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you so much. I had no idea what she was going to say. She was going to, this is not a paid advertisement. I am honored to help you and to help the residents of Cleveland, and that's the work that we do in community development in our Bureau of Community Programming.
Hi there. I had to make sure that I ripped this mic from Dulce because I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to either open up the floor if anybody has anything to discuss, and if not, the real reason why I ripped the mic from Dulce is because I want to welcome the Fair Housing Board.
Good afternoon. Bob Render. In the spirit of John Lewis, I like to start good trouble at City Hall. The mayor knows that.
Dan Conway, I'm on the Fair Housing Board with Robert. And do we have any other board members here, Robert? No, I think just the two of us. Okay.
Okay. Well,
That's it.
What we found out was that Dulce does a lot of work. Any of you that work on programs, whether
Right.
you're administrators, family reunions, you name it. A lot of work goes on behind the scene, and often you come out of your own pocket to make sure that it happens the way you want it to happen. So I called Erin. I said, we want to do something nice for Dulce. She gave me some ideas. I ran it by our chairman here, Daniel, and I heard you like pink.
Yes,
Okay.
I love pink.
Okay.
Pink is my love language.
So here's the first gift.
That was not on my program, but I am honored. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You have another one, Dulce. It's on order. So
Oh, I do.
thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you, every speaker. I'm speechless, and that doesn't happen often. Partner and guests who join us today. This past year, we have made meaningful progress, strengthening our outreach, building new partnerships like you guys, counting with a community that believes in the City of Cleveland Department of Community Development. And like Mr. Rogers once said, and I love him, so I have to mention him often, all of us, at some time or other, need help. And whether we are giving or receiving help, each one of us has something valuable to bring to this world. Today reminded us that housing is more than just a roof over our heads. It is the foundation of our health, our dignity, and our shape, and our hope. In every safe home, every open door, and every act of compassion bring us closer to the kind of neighborhood that Mr. Rogers believed in. One where everyone is valued and no one is left out. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Metro Health for hosting and providing this venue so we can enjoy this beautiful time educating ourselves, and also we'll be enjoying delicious food. Thank you to Beyond Juicery and Eatery. Thank you to all the partners that are here today. Please take advantage of all the information that you can get from them. I also want to announce, and I will say this in Spanish, if there is someone here that doesn't speak Spanish, that there are help here in this room that will be translating and helping filling out applications or anything else. But right now, I just want to continue to carry this message forward. And in your advocacy, your work, and your neighborhood, make sure that together we build a Cleveland that is healthier, a Cleveland that is better, and a Cleveland where fair housing is a right. Thank you. So, yo le dije que iba a... Eso switch. Yo les dije que lo quiero invitar a que ustedes pasen por las mesas. Tenemos personas que le pueden traducir en español. Si necesitan ayuda a llenar las aplicaciones sobre la presentación del EPA program, también ellos tienen información, necesitan llenar, necesitan una estufa nueva. Vamos a ponernos saludables y entonces disfruten la fiesta. Thank you.
I want to take a second. I want you guys to get real loud, only because, you know, we had so much trouble out there. So let's really live it up. Come on, let's go! Woo! Well, as we are closing out, I want to welcome everybody to kind of go into these other portions of our space in our kind of temporary home here in Metro Health. And I also want to just say one more thing because I love to gush. Dulce is one of my best friends. She is one of my favorite people in the entire world. And I am so thankful to be a part of this process. This is the second year that she's kind of let me be a part of this. And her passion is contagious. Her advocacy is boundless. And when she says that she is going to do something, she literally means that she's walking away because she's about to go act on it. And she is literally going to keep on following up until somebody gives her an answer. So I just want to I'm just so thankful to be here. So thank you. Okay, you guys are free.